This is an instructional video of how to solve systems of equations using the substitution method. For the substitution method, there are 5 steps. The first step is to make one of the equations into slope-intercept form. That's the form y equals mx plus b. Step number 2, we are going to substitute the y equals equation into the y spot of the other equation. That might not make sense just yet. We will do several examples to show you what I mean. Step 3, combine like terms and solve. Step 4, take your x equals answer and plug it into the y equals mx plus b equation. We're going to use that equation again. And step 5 is to write your answer as an ordered pair. And that would be written as x and then y. So we have 2 equations, y equals 3x, and the other equation, x plus y equals negative 32. So we need one of the equations to be in y equals mx plus b form, and one of them is. This top equation is in the y equals mx plus b form because the y value is by itself. So we're going to take the equation portion, so just the 3x, and we're going to substitute it into the y position. So instead of x plus y, we're going to do x plus the other equation, 3x. The equals negative 32 stays the same. When you substitute, everything stays in the same order. The only thing you're changing is the y spot. X plus y, x plus 3x. Now we know that the number in front of this x is a 1. And so when we combine our like terms, 1x plus 3x is going to give us 4x. 4x equals negative 32. And our last step is going to be divide. The 4 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. And we get x equals negative 8. Moving on to step 4, we're going to take our answer and we plug it back into the equation we used, y equals mx plus b. But instead of x, in this case 3x, we're going to use our answer, 3 and negative 8. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Step 5, the last step, we write our answer as an ordered pair. X goes first and then y. And so we write it as our answer, negative 8 and then negative 24. For this next problem, we have the equation y equals 9x minus 2, and the second equation, y equals 3x plus 10. We need at least one of the equations to be in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and we can look and see that both of the equations are in y equals mx plus b form. Both of the equations have the y value on the left-hand side of the equal sign all by itself. So we're going to take the top equation, just the equation part, not the y, and we're going to plug it into the y value spot. So instead of y, we're going to write that equation. So instead of y equals 3x plus 10, we're going to take our equation, 9x minus 2, that's our y, and plug it into 3x plus 10. Step 3, we're going to combine like terms and solve. 9x and 3x are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite of 3x, we do a minus 3x. 9 minus 3 is going to give us 6. Bring down the minus 2, bring down that positive 10. Still combining like terms, minus 2 and 10 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite of a minus 2, we do a plus 2. 10 plus 2 is going to give us 12. Our last step, 6 and x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. 12 divided by 6 is 2. For step 4, we take our answer, x equals 2, we plug it back into the y equals equation that we used earlier, so in this case 9x minus 2. But instead of writing the x variable, we write our answer. So instead of 9x, we're going to do 9 times 2. 9 times 2 is going to give us 18. 18 minus 2 is going to give us 16. We write our answer as an ordered pair, x first, and then the y answer, so 2, 16. For this problem, we have the equation y equals negative x plus 4, and the equation 5x plus 6y equals 13. Remember, we need to have at least one of the equations in y equals mx plus b form, and we do. The top equation has the y equals on the left-hand side by itself, and the equation completely on the right. We're going to take that equation and we're going to plug it into the y value position in the other equation for step 2. Everything else has to stay in the same order. So the 5x plus 6 stays the same, but instead of writing 6y, we write the other equation, the negative x plus 4. I wrote the equation in parentheses because the 6 and the y side by side means multiply, and so we show multiplication with parentheses. Now we start solving this problem by distributing, and we multiply the 6 by both parts of the parentheses. So 6 times, we know this is a negative 1. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. 6 times 4 is going to give us 24, and then equals 13. Combining our like terms, 5 minus 6 is going to give us a negative 1. Still combining like terms, 24 and 13 are on opposite sides, so instead of plus 24, we do the opposite. We do a minus 24. 13 minus 24 is going to give us a negative 11. And our last step is to divide. The negative 1 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite. We divide. Negative 11 divided by negative 1 is a positive 11. Last step, step number 4, we're going to take our x equals answer, we're going to plug it back in to the y equals equation. So instead of negative x plus 4, we're going to do negative 11 plus 4. Even though our answer is a positive 11, the equation calls for a negative x, so we want a negative 11. Negative 11 plus 4 is going to give us a negative 7. We write our answer as a point, x value first, so a 7, y value second, negative 7. For this equation, we have negative 3x plus 4y equals 7, and the other equation, y equals 3x minus 5. We need at least one of the equations to be in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. The second equation is in that correct format, because the y value is by itself on the left-hand side, and 3x minus 5 is together on the right-hand side. We're going to take that and we're going to plug it into the y value spot in the problem. Everything else stays in the same order. So the negative 3x plus 4 goes first, but instead of writing 4y, we're going to write the other part of the problem, 3x minus 5, and then the equals 7 is still at the end. We write the problem in parentheses because the 4 and the y together mean multiply, and we show multiplication with parentheses. We start by distributing and multiplying the 4 by both parts of the parentheses. 4 times 3 is going to give us 12x. 4 times 5 is going to give us 20. Combining like terms, negative 3 plus 12 is going to give us 9x. Still combining like terms, 20 and 7 are on opposite sides. So instead of a minus 20, we do the opposite. We do a plus 20. 7 plus 20 is going to give us 27. And our last step is to divide. The 9 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite. We divide. 27 divided by 9 gives us 3. We're going to take our answer, x equals 3, and we plug it back into the y equals equation. In this case, y equals 3x minus 5. But instead of writing 3x, we write our answer 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is going to give us 9. 9 minus 5 is going to give us 4. When we write our answer, we write the x value first, 3, and the y value second, 4. For this problem, we need one of the equations to be in the y equals mx plus b form, slope-intercept form. Neither of these equations are written correctly. You can take either equation and rewrite it, whichever equation looks easier to you. I'm going to take the top equation, negative 10x plus 2y equals 4. I'm going to start by moving the x value because y needs to be on the left-hand side by itself and the mx needs to be on the right. So instead of a minus 10x, we do the opposite. We do a plus 10x. So I have a positive 10x because it's plus, and I have a positive 4. The y value is still not by itself. We have to get rid of that 2. And so the 2 and the y together means multiply. We do the opposite. We divide. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 4 divided by 2 is 2. My new equation is y equals 5x plus 2. I'm going to take that equation, y equals 5x plus 2, and we're going to take the equation portion and we're going to plug it into the y value position. We leave everything else in the same order. The negative 9x plus 3 stays the same, but instead of writing 3y, we write the other equation, 5x plus 2, and the equals 18 can stay at the end. When we solve it, we start by distributing and we multiply the 3 by both parts of the parentheses. 3 times 5 is going to give us 15x. 3 times 2 is going to give us 6. Combining like terms, negative 9 plus 15 is going to give us 6. Still combining like terms, 6 and 18 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of plus 6, we do a minus 6. 18 minus 6 is 12. And our last step is to divide. The 6 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite. We divide. 12 divided by 6 is 2. We take our answer, x equals 2. We plug it back into the y equals equation that we created. Y equals 5x plus 2. Instead of writing 5x, we write our answer 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 plus 2 is going to give us 12. When we write our final answer, we write the x value answer first, 2, and the y value answer 12 second. For this problem, we have the equation y minus 3 equals 2x, and the equation y equals 4x minus 2. We need one of the equations to be in y equals mx plus b form, and the bottom equation is. The y equals is on the left-hand side, the mx plus b, 4x minus 2, is on the right-hand side. We're going to take our problem and we're going to plug it into the y value position. So instead of y being in the front, we're going to take our equation, 4x minus 2, and put it in the front, meaning the minus 3 and the equals 2x stays at the end. As we combine like terms, 2x and 4x are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite. Instead of 2, we do a minus 2. 4 minus 2 is going to give us a 2, so that's a 2x. I bring down the minus 2 and the minus 3. When we took the 2x and moved it to the other side, I am left with nothing, so that is a 0. Still combining like terms, the minus 2 and the minus 3 is going to give us a minus 5. Still combining like terms, the minus 5 and the 0 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite. Instead of minus, we do plus 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. And our last step is to divide. The 2 and the x side by side means multiply. We do the opposite, we divide. 5 divided by 2 is going to give us 2.5. We're going to take that answer and we're going to plug it back into the y equals equation, in this case 4x minus 2. But instead of writing x, we're going to write our answer 2.5. 4 times 2.5 is going to give us 10. 10 minus 2 is going to give us 8. When we write our answer, we write the x answer first, 2.5. We write the y answer second, 8. For this problem, we have y equals 1.4x plus 2 and y minus 3.4x equals negative 2. We start by making sure at least one of the equations is in y equals mx plus b form, slope-intercept form. The top equation is the y equals is on the left-hand side, the 1.4x plus 2 is on the right-hand side. We're going to take that equation and we're going to plug it into the y value spot of the second equation. So instead of y minus 3.4x, we're going to use our equation, 1.4x plus 2, and then everything else stays in the same order. The minus 3.4x and the equals negative 2 goes at the end. When we combine our like terms, 1.4 minus 3.4 is going to give us negative 2. So that's a negative 2x. Bring down the positive 2 and the equals negative 2. Still combining like terms, plus 2 and negative 2 are on opposite sides, so I do the opposite operation. Instead of plus 2, we do a minus 2. Negative 2 minus 2 is a negative 4. And our last step is to divide. Negative 2 and x side by side means multiply, so we do the opposite, we divide. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is a positive 2. We take that answer and we plug it back into the y equals equation, 1.4x plus 2. But instead of writing 1.4x, we write our answer 2. 1.4 times 2 is going to give us 2.8. 2.8 plus 2 is going to give you 4.8. When you write your answer, you write it with the x value answer first, 2, and then the y value answer, 4.8.